Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, it's another fan cast, but before we get into it, as always, we've got 5 options for you guys to vote on for which one of these you want to see as next Sunday's fan cast. Go down there in the comments, there's a pinned comment, you just vote beneath it which one of these you want to see next time. Do you want to see Disney's Cinderella? Do you want to see Indiana Jones? Do you want to see Thundercats? Do you want to see Super Mario Bros. Or do you want to see The Flight of Dragons? That's right. You guys let me know, and until then, let's just get on with today's fancast. So, The Matrix, yes, it's a whole thing, isn't it? There's no point really to doing this because they are just doing The Matrix 4 upcoming, and they've just got the same cast as before. So, really no need for this. I'm scared about what they're going to do with that. As a franchise, it just never worked, right? It worked as a film. Really well. Really well, don't get me wrong. But sequels, oh god, yeah. Well, anyway, let's not think and dwell upon that for now. First off, we need to cast Neo, and it's difficult. Keanu Reeves at the time, he was not the first choice. Oh no, they had a bunch of options and choices beforehand. Will Smith, I think, was the first one they went to. Unfortunately, he turned it down because I don't like to think about what that would look like, honestly. But they eventually settled on Keanu Reeves, and he's difficult to replace because he's such a blend of he could play this nerdier, unassuming role, the kind of average Joe guy, like in a Lego movie. It's basically done. Lego movie is just a rip on the Matrix. Ignore that. But also someone who can, like Keanu Reeves usually does, be this badass action hero. He needs to juggle these two aspects really well, and he needs to be able to do both sides of it. And I've seen this suggested before online, this casting, and I initially rejected the idea, and it grew on me. So I'm just gonna go with what a lot of people have already said. I think it's fair enough. I'm not taking credit for coming up with this, but it grew on me, so I'm gonna stick with it. I'm casting Kit Harington as Neo. Jon Snow. He doesn't know anything until he takes the red. Yeah, I feel amazed that Kit Harington hasn't launched somehow to superstardom. I was expecting by now, a couple of years after Game of Thrones ended, that he would have been announced as the new James Bond or as some huge Marvel or DC role or something. And he hasn't really. And I'm shocked, and I will continue to be shocked until the day he is announced as Neo, because that'll be great. But none of this is happening. But I think he's got that mixture. We've seen in Pompeii and in Game of Thrones that he can be this badass action guy, but we've also seen in Game of Thrones, and in some other stuff to some degree, this level of unassuming lead. And I think he could lay into that slightly more and come off as quite this nerdy guy who doesn't know what he's doing, getting involved in all this at first, and then by the end he's like, whole thing. Next, Trinity. Carrie-Anne Moss is difficult to replace. She's unique. Her style, you're never really going to get exactly that again. And a lot of the other actors I was thinking of for this are maybe a bit old for it. To be alongside Harrington, you do kind of need to be in your early 30s still probably in this role. And this is one where I came up with this casting, and I didn't love it at first. And then it grew on me again. Just any of these roles, it just feels so wrong having anyone else in them. But I'm going to cast for Trinity Alicia Vikander. She's already an icon in sci-fi and stuff. She's already been Lara Croft, and she's already the Ex Machina. I don't know why she came into my head for this in particular, but once she was in my head about it, I was thinking, yeah, actually, it is a unique character. She is obviously eventually this love interest to Neo, but there's so much of the badass, no time for any of that kind of thing about her in the first film that I feel like Alicia Vikander, who you would never really cast as just this love interest to the main character, that's what you want. You want someone who is much more likely to star in an action film as the lead for her role, I think. Does that make sense? I think so. Next, Morpheus. Morpheus. Lawrence Fishburne is, he's so iconic for that role. It's difficult again to recast. But, and maybe I'm memeing too hard here. But that's partially because this film's not going to happen. They're not going to remake The Matrix anytime soon. anytime soon if they're doing a fourth right now. But after seeing him in Tenet, I kind of want to cast John David Washington. Yeah. Was the role of Morpheus ever offered to Denzel? It could have been. It could have been. I don't think so. But his son would be perfect for it. Having seen him just in Tenet, it's similar in some ways, isn't it? The idea of it to The Matrix. And it is similarly insane and mind-blowing in different ways. But he is so good. I've seen him in a few things over the last couple of years. Black Klansman. Oh, man. He's so good. And he's maybe slightly young, actually, for this. In comparison to... He's only a couple of years older than Kit Harington or Alicia Vikander. And I would have thought that Lawrence Fishburne was probably about 10 years older than Keanu when they filmed it. But I don't know. I like him for it. And there's other people who could do it too, obviously. But all of these feel wrong casting even these people that I like for the roles. So it's never going to feel right. It's just wrong. Next. Cipher is someone who wants to actually go back, who regrets taking the Red Pill, wants to go back into the Matrix. And it's an interesting role. And I'm not casting a lot of roles in this fan cast. A lot of the roles in the first film, like, they're kind of nothing roles, and I'm not touching the sequels. I don't want to. There's no point. There's just no point. But his role, it's kind of difficult because it was Joe Pantoliano. I can never pronounce his name. And he's middle-aged kind of guy who you wouldn't expect to be in such a serious role, but he pulls it off quite well. So I'm going to cast Seth Green, who is older than I thought, but he has been around for a long time. And he's good at serious roles. While usually being this comedic character, he's good at serious roles. And that's what you're looking for Cypher's character, is something along those lines. So it might be an insane choice, but I like it. I like the thought of it, because I have seen him in various serious things before, and he works. He works well, but he's also so funny. That's what I think you need. Next, the Oracle. The Oracle. It's another role that I wasn't almost going to bother casting, but I kind of came up with a nice idea. I like Alfre Woodard for it. Yes. Why? I mean, she's scary. A lot of roles I've seen her in, she's scary. And there's something about the Oracle that's always kind of a little bit. You just take a step back and she controls the room. She feels like everybody's got so much respect for her. That kind of thing, just generally. All of these things feel wrong. It feels so wrong to cast this one in particular for some reason to me. It just felt awkward and weird, but next. Finally, there are other roles you could cast, but as I say, like that, I don't feel a lot of need to go down the cast list much more in this in particular. So, finally, is Agent Smith. Now, they've already got, it appears, some younger actors in to play either a younger Agent Smith or someone who takes over from him for the fourth film. But I'm not going to cast any of them, no. I really like the idea of Jude Law as Agent Smith. I think that's perfect. And as much as, yes, Jude Law is older now than Hugo Weaving would have been in the first film, at least, I think. He is also an English actor who's also known mostly for serious things. And his style is... It's hard to explain, but it's similarly suave, but easily turned scary. Easily gone British Psycho. If you know what I mean. It's so difficult to explain what I mean with that, but it's similar to the style of Hugo Weaving's Agent Smith, I feel. He'd be really good at that just deadly, calm, collected, terrifying presence. And British villain. That's what you want. You just want somebody British playing that role. It's needed. It's something else. British characters as villains, it just works so well. Jude Law's one of them. He's a good shady character, if not outright villain. He plays a lot of those, and he's always great at it. And as much as I feel like, yeah, you maybe do want someone slightly younger. He is approaching 50 maybe now. I don't feel like he looks it. Jude Law, obviously, he doesn't age. He's like a British Paul Rudd. So I think you can get away with it pretty easily. And that's all for this one, folks. Do let me know what other fan cast you want to see next week down in the comments, and there will be another one midweek. You can check out the last one. It was the Young Avengers for the MCU. Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty long one, because it was difficult to explain all those characters and how many were already cast in the MCU. It's a whole thing. However, subscribe, like the video, comment.